Hey everyone, Robert Ferringo with Doc Sports here with my main man, Raphael Esparza, bringing you Doc Sports Services Super Bowl Props Bonanza. Click the link above or below. Take advantage of $60 free, which can be used towards any handicapper for any package in any sport that you are looking for. Now, we are selling our Super Bowl comprehensive picks packages, that sides and totals for many handicappers, plus all of their prop bets. They will all be released on Thursday, and they're $29 a piece. So I'm going to let you do the math on that one with the free $60. Raphael, how are you, my man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Awful. I've been sick all week, sick the week of the Super Bowl. That's not something that any gambler, handicapper, well, really anyone. There's never a good time to be sick, but I've
I
been
wish I
better.
was sick. I mean,
I guess it could be worse. I could be sick on Super Bowl Sunday, so I guess better to get it out of the way early on. So, Raphael, Super Bowl Sunday, okay, the biggest day in sports betting. My first question to you is, what do you think of the game? What do you think of the matchup?
I think it's gonna be a close game. At least I hope it's a close game. Just because for someone who has to watch it anywhere between 2 to 3 times in a 24 to 48 hour process, because I have to grade the prop bets that I release to casinos and stuff like that. So I guess if I have to watch it more than once, I want to be an entertaining a type of game. But I do believe it's going to be entertaining. I think with both quarterbacks not being healthy, I think we're going to see someone else be the shine of all shines. Maybe the running game, maybe the defense and stuff like that. So it would not shock me if we see a star being born in this game. Not the ones that we've heard about week after week after week between the two quarterbacks. I would not be shocked if we see somebody else win maybe the MVP or something like that. But I think quarterbacks will have their game, but I think someone's going to be the star and put them over to put their team over the hump.
Well, you mentioned props, and we're going to get to some free props from the two of us in a moment. But I have to ask you, you personally, when you bet on the Super Bowl, do you bet more money the traditional way, sides, totals, plays like that, or will you be betting more money on prop bets?
Me, I probably do a little bit more on prop bets, just on the player prop bets now. I mean, not more of the specialty ones, but mostly the player prop bets. I'll probably put a little bit more. Because face it, the game has no value. If you see someone out there has odds maker error on the Super Bowl or line mismatch a Super Bowl number, they're just trying to sell you something. Because let's face it, this line's been out for 2 weeks. Right now, they're just getting they're getting two-way action. They're not getting too much action because the number really hasn't moved that much. We haven't seen 3 on Philly. We haven't seen pick on Kansas City. Right now, the betters are the books are telling you they're getting the action they want to see now. Are they heavy on some? Yeah, they're a little bit heavy, but they're thinking that they can maybe get some of the other side over the weekend. So if you see that kind of line mismatch error, odds maker error for the Super Bowl, that's all hogwash and stuff like that's just trying to sell you something.
I don't know. I got to push back. I got to push back a little bit there. I have seen mistakes made on Super Bowl lines before. Okay. Both of the Giants Patriots Super Bowl lines were terrible. And the Seattle Denver Super Bowl, where Denver was favored and they lost by a million to the Seahawks. So they do make mistakes
Well,
on the Super Bowl lines because
The Denver Seattle was a mistake because they got pounded. The books got pounded a week before on Denver money. So they made that number thinking that the Denver money that was coming in, cashing, was going to rebat. And that Denver money never came in. I tell people this all the time. Super Bowl's 2 weeks. 1 week you get one team action, the next week you get that one. Those two Super Bowls you mentioned were probably and you can throw in the Rams Titans game. You can throw in that Super Bowl. I've never seen 2 week action, just one team, one team, one team. Luckily, the Titans Rams game was a push, which was one of the worst nights I've ever had working in a sports book because everybody got their money back. Everyone was just cashing. But those 3 ones off the top of my head, I've never seen a 2 week action where it was just one team, one team, one team.
well, yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people have irrational confidence heading into the Super Bowl, and a lot of people have irrational confidence in their betting ability. But I guess my point is that the odds makers aren't infallible here. I've seen mistakes made on a lot of Super Bowl odds in my career. It's honestly, it's one of the best areas to find value. Now, to go back a second, that's your personal betting, a little bit more on prop sides and totals. How about with the sports books? Do the sports books, what do you think the balance is, and how has that balance shifted over the last 15, 20 years? Are they still taking most of their action just straight side and total bets? Or is most of their action coming in on the props and a lot of these specials that they're offering?
Mostly side and total because that's where the money is. They're going to take $1 million, and we've seen $2 million bets lately on the Philadelphia Eagles, both on the money line. And we've seen some six-figure bets on the totals, both of them being over. I saw a Kansas City six-figure bet on the money line. It's funny, most of the big bets I've been money line, not the spreads, because it's so low of a spread, 1.5 or plus 1.5. Either way, you're getting it. But that's why I decide in total we'll get more money action, just because we're not going to take $1 million action bet on Patrick Mahomes' total passing yards or total touchdowns being thrown. Most of them are probably set anywhere between 5,000 or less for limit bets.
Are those limits going up on the prop bets?
You know what? I can't really answer that now that it's been out of the Vegas casino industry so long. I don't, because sometimes you're going to get a guy that just lost $1 million on a baccarat table and he wants to bet Jalen Hurts total rushing yards under. Well, they're probably going to give him a little bit more just because he lost $1 million playing baccarat Saturday night. Now, most of the books that are most of the global books like BetUS, William Hill, stuff like that, who are more line books, they're not going to take that big significant amount of bet because they're just working off of sports betting, not working off what the casinos doing, food and beverage, blah 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 blah. They're working off just sports betting and sports betting alone.
So then, if you had to ballpark it with the sports books that you work with and the people that you talk to, what percentage of the overall Super Bowl handle would you think is coming in on prop bets?
I would say lately it's probably around 60-40. I would think now 60 game and 40 prop bets. Now, a dollar amount is probably, again, probably a little bit different. I would say maybe 80-20, just because,
Mhm.
like I said, $1 million, six figure compared to $20,
Sure.
$20, $100 or so. I would say on tickets written, I'd probably say 60-40 game, 60 prop bets, 40. I mean, I could be off a little bit, but I think year after year it's probably going to come closer to tickets written being 50-50 on props versus game and side and total.
Yeah, do you see that being the case 5, 10, 15 years from now where prop
Yes.
action actually outsizes the betting on the Super Bowl game?
Oh yeah, just because I remember when I first got out of the Vegas casino industry and started helping out other books and stuff like that, their goal was just to have 1,000 to 1,500 prop bets. Now, every year they add 500 more. They're like, hey, we want to do 3,000 this year. We want to do it. I mean, I can guarantee you, in the 5 years, I'm going to be like, they want me to do 10,000 prop bets and stuff like that. So yeah, I would think that number probably surpasses.
Don't pretend that you don't enjoy coming up with odds for whether or not Rihanna is going to show cleavage at the halftime show. You
I
secretly
do like
love
the
that.
butt cheek one. I do like where she show butt cheek and stuff like that. I've done a lot more since the ones I've sent you before. So
Okay, before we get into to some specific free prop plays, do you have any general tips? Anything to avoid? Anything to look for? Common mistakes that people make when they're betting on sports. Just you're the expert prop odds maker. Give the people some tips.
I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you like the Chiefs, don't just go all buck wild on Chiefs prop bets because you can still find some golden gems on Eagles prop bets. I like both running backs this game, Eagles and Chiefs. So just because you're rooting for the Chiefs or rooting for the Eagles does not mean you have to bet every Eagle prop and maybe not throw in a couple Chiefs props and stuff like that. When you're looking at props, bet as you don't like the game, just you want to bet props. I usually tell people bet props first and then come back and bet the game because you never know if that game, if you like the over and it's what 51 now, 51 and a half, you never know. Maybe Saturday, some Joey put up $2 million on the under and a number moved and stuff like that. So the prop bets numbers will move a lot faster now than the game numbers are because again the limits are low. So some guy can bet $500 on Jalen Hurts under rushing yards, and they're going to move that money line juice a lot quicker than if some guy just bets 200,000 on the Chiefs plus 1.5.
That's really interesting that you suggest betting the props first and then maybe moving towards the game. Because honestly, that would be the exact opposite of how I have always approached it. And there's not to say that there's one right way or wrong way to do it, but just as I generally think, bet the game, okay? Have an idea of how you see this game playing out. If you think it's going to be a lower scoring game, that means you think that Kansas City's going to try and run the ball. Philadelphia is going to try and run the ball. We're going to see less explosive plays in the passing game or fewer turnovers and lower scoring, and let that kind of guide your prop betting versus, I like this prop and this prop and this prop and this prop. And then you lay a big bet on the game that's kind of at odds with, and that you bet all these Eagles running back props, and then game day comes and you bet on Kansas City plus 1.5 type of thing, or you bet the under or something like that. So I get an idea of how you see the game playing out, and then kind of use that as a guide rail for how you should bet your props.
Oh, I totally agree with that. But every Sunday night when the game is over and I'm starting to grade a prop bets and I see what the opening line was to one prop bet and the closing line, I can tell you sometimes there's 10, 15 yards different from the opening number compared to what the number closed. Value-wise, I say maybe look at the props first, because let's face it, the number's not going to move 3, 4, 5 points in a game unless the significant injury happens. So that number is probably going to, maybe if you're like, oh, I like to over, and it was 50.5 when it opened up, and now, oh shit, Saturday's here, and now it's 51 or 51. It's only 1 point different compared to a prop bet that opened up at 43, and now all of a sudden it's 49.5.
Okay, so you're talking from a line value standpoint.
Yes, for a line value
for always. Strategy standpoint. Okay,
for a line, mine was strictly line value.
Okay, well, let's get into some free prop plays. Give the people some love. And first, I got to ask you, which do you prefer? Do you like the individual player props, or do you like some team props?
I'm a sucker for individual. I'll look at team ones, but right away I'm always looking for individual. Now, when it comes to Super Wedding, I love the cross sport ones, so I'm always looking for those. I think I probably look at those first. Then I go back and look at the player ones, and sometimes as I just double guess or double sword me, sometimes I screw myself because I'm looking at the cross sport ones, and now I go back to the player ones. I'm like, oh man, the player ones already moved 3-4 yards already because I was goofing around on the cross promotional sport one. So sometimes I usually kick myself on that one, but I enjoy the cross ones, but I also enjoy the player ones.
All right, you got something good for the people to start off with?
I think one of the easier ones is going to be I think we're going to see big name receivers get the ball a lot. I'll go with the Eagles. Devontae Smith over under receiving yards 64.5. I even though everyone says, oh, what's his shoulder going to be like? Can he be able to throw the ball and stuff like that? So I think the screen passes are going to be there, the slants, and let's face it, Smith is fast. So if he gets one and breaks one, he could probably rush or run for 30 yards just himself. I like his going over to 64.5. There is some 65.5s already popping up, so make sure you jump on that quickly, because that one, and I'll tell you right now, everything Kelsey prop bet. If you haven't bet it now, today is what, Thursday or Wednesday, February 8th. You better hurry up, because anything that has a Kelsey name to it is going to be bet up. They're not going to bet anything with a Kelsey name under. So if you're looking to bet anything on a Kelsey brother, bet it now.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of like with the Cooper Kupp props last year, where no matter how high
exactly.
those numbers went last year, it doesn't matter. They still went over. They're still going to force feed him the ball. So, all right, Devontae Smith, you like over for his receiving yards. Okay, how about somebody under the radar, or another maybe individual that you think has some sneaky value?
I like both quarterbacks. I don't have their numbers in front of me. Their total passing yards under. I said earlier in my stuff,
I like Hurts around 238.5, and I see Patrick Mahomes around 294, 295.5 passing yards. Now, Patrick Mahomes has not thrown for over 300 yards. I don't think he threw for over 290 yards in either of the two Super Bowls that he already played in. 300-yard passers in the Super Bowl are a lot more rare than people think. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I said, like I said, I like both the quarterbacks going under on passing yards. I said earlier, I like both running backs going. That's why I think the running game is going to be very focused early in the game to maybe get some pressure off the non-healthy quarterbacks. Both of them are not healthy. I think both of them will probably be around 80 or higher, 80 between 80 and 90. I don't think no one's going to be 100% and stuff. But maybe Patrick Mahomes maybe a little bit less just because of his an ankle. But I see the running a game being both.
So you like Isaiah Pacheco. You like some of his prop value as well, 11 and a half rushing attempts, over 48 and a half rushing yards.
I don't like his rushing attempts. I like his over his running yards and his yards over rushing and receiving. I think that even though his rushing and receiving and his rushing yards went under his last game, but that was
Mhm.
totally it was a totally weird game on that one. I think he's going to be really focused on this game.
Well, if you go back, I have to say, because he was one of the first guys that I kind of gravitated to as well. But if you go back, Andy Reid in the Super Bowl, he does not run the ball. Okay. In his 3 Super Bowl appearances, he refuses to run the ball. So I don't know. I like him. I think that if Kansas City is going to win this game, they are going to need to use the running game. They can't just throw Patrick Mahomes out there and expect him to make magic for 60 minutes. Not against this pass rush, not against this defense. They're going to have to run the ball. But I just don't know if Andy Reid, if he's going to change his stripes at this point. All right, one of the ones that jumped out at me was Juju Smith-Schuster under 38 and a half receiving yards. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, he's not healthy. I mean, that's another reason why I'm leaning. I can say this now, even if you purchase it, it's not like I'm going to release an 8-unit Super Bowl play of the year and stuff like that. Right now, if I had to, I have not released my plays. I know a couple people have and stuff like that. I have not. I'm releasing mine on Thursday, like normal football. I think the Eagles are just a little bit healthier, a more healthier team right now. Juju Smith, I mean, all the wide receivers from Kansas City got banged up in their last game. Juju Smith was one of them. So, yeah, I agree on that one. How healthy is he going to be in this game? Thank you for being in Arizona inside, so it's not going to be cold. So, a lot of people who have aches and pains, that cold won't bother them, but he's not going to be 100%.
Not only that, but even when he was a little bit healthier, he hasn't topped 38 and a half receiving
No.
yards in 8 of his past 10 games. They spread the ball out a little bit. And frankly, I mean, honestly, the guy's just kind of overrated. He was overrated in Pittsburgh. He's been good this year in Kansas City, but he's not a game-breaking wide receiver. He's not A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith by any stretch of the imagination. So I could definitely see him getting left out. All right, we both talked about the teams wanting to run the ball. All right, Philadelphia has those 3 running backs that are up there: Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and you're even seeing a little Boston Scott action. Where do you think the most value is with those 3 Philadelphia running backs? Do any of those rushing props jump out at you?
I like Gainwell. I think the way they're using him a little bit more. I think Sanders is being kind of double dipping. Right? They like how they like the screen pass with him, and they like the running and all that. But I think Greenwell, I think he's just a type of Super Bowl type of runner. Get those tough yards, go up the middle. Sanders a little bit goes by his speed. I like Gainwell. I think I like his rushing yards over, and his receiving yards are a little bit over as well.
Yeah, they really do a great job of mixing those guys up. I like Boston Scott. Okay, his over for rushing yards is only 7.5. All right. This guy scored a touchdown in 4 of their last 5 games. He scored a touchdown in both of their playoff games. Why am I talking touchdowns when we're talking total rushing yards? Because if they're giving this guy the ball near the goal line, that means they trust him to handle the ball, period. Okay. He's topped 8 rushing yards in 7 of the last 8 games. The only time he missed, he only had 6 yards. So everybody's kind of focusing on Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, it's not going to shock me if Boston Scott chips in 24 rushing yards for a Philadelphia team that's probably going to run the ball 40 plus times and probably going to do so for over 200 yards. So I think 7.5 is a little bit skimpy on Boston Scott there.
I
All right,
agree.
do you have
I totally agree with you, and I don't have it in front of me, but you were just talking right now. First touchdown scored by the Eagles. I would say rushing. It's a minus, but it wasn't a big minus. I think it was minus 130, minus 140. They have 4 people because Jalen Hurts can sneak it in according to the greatest
Mhm.
offensive play at the 1 yard line. Hurts can sneak one in. So the Eagles' first touchdown scored in the Super Bowl, rushing. Like I said, I know it was a minus. Last time I checked, it was like minus 130, minus 140. I don't have it in front of me. That's a good prop bet right there.
Yeah, they use their running backs or excuse me, their wide receivers in the rushing game. Basically, everybody but the tight ends gets involved in the rushing game with Philadelphia. So pretty good odds. Now I have to ask you, one of my favorite props, usually, okay, depends on the matchup, but I have cleaned up in the past with field goal kickers in the
Oh, I
Super
like
Bowl.
that's. I like when you. I'm gonna hear yours, and I got one for you.
Now I don't have one this year. I kind of like the
Oh,
Eagles over 1.5 field goals because I do think that they're going to move the ball relatively at will between the 20s. But you know as well as I do, it comes down to who can cash in those red zone opportunities. So I can see the Eagles kicking 2 or more field goals. Some people tend to overestimate the amount of field goals that are usually kicked in the Super Bowl. So I want to ask you, what do you think of this year's kickers and how they match up?
I
Prop
think I
value.
think the I think the kickers are going to be big. The kickers were big during the playoffs because of the thank you for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, well, I had to do extra prop bets for those games because the kicker couldn't make anything. But I think the kickers could be the story in this one. That's why I like field goal made in the fourth quarter was yes minus what 170 minus 175 around it. I think again tight game. I think both teams are not going to have points. They're not going to miss points in this game. If they're, I don't think we're going to see a lot of 4th and 6, and they're going to go for it. I think if there's points on the field, they're going to grab those points. I agree with you. I think both kickers are going to kick field goals in this one.
See, again, I disagree with you slightly there because one of the ones I was going to ask you about, I haven't looked at it, I don't see the number yet, but they usually have shortest field goal. Will it be over, under like 35 and a half yards? I would say that the shortest field goal would probably be, or sometimes it's around 32 and a half. I would say over just because I don't know if either team gets inside the 20, gets inside the 15, let's say, and they have a fourth and short. I don't see either one of these teams settling for the 3 points. I think that they both trust their offense a little bit more than their defense. So I can see that shortest field goal being a 40 yarder, a 44 yarder, something around that. I agree with you that, 4th and 5, are they going to be aggressively going for it? Probably not in general, but inside the 15-yard line, inside the 10-yard line, I think both of these teams know that if they are going to win this game, they are going to have to score points, and settling for field goals isn't going to get the job done. So again, I don't have that number. It's usually around like 32 and a half, 33 and a half for the shortest field goal. I think I would take that one. I think I would take that one over.
I think field position could be big. That's why I like the shortest punt under 36 and a half yards. I think that's why I kind of think they're not going to go for it like we've seen Kansas City and the Eagles. Their quarterbacks, again, not healthy, so they're not going to expect them to use their legs to try to get a first down. I like the shortest punt under 36 and a half just because I think field position is going to be big, especially for the Eagles who know they have that defense that can help them get field position back. I would not be shocked if they punt just because of their I think they're more confident of their D than Kansas City's confidence with theirs.
Oh, 100%. Now, I'll give you my last free prop play, and then you can give me one to close on, and we'll let the people move on with their day. Raphael, I'm on the Quez Watkins bandwagon. I know that his prop bets have been getting faded for the last week and a half. The guy has speed to burn. Okay, in a game like this, putting the ball in his hands once or twice, he could break off a big play. I like Quez Watkins over 1.5 receptions, and I like him over 12.5 receiving yards. The juice on his receptions is plus 140. So you're getting a lot of
Yeah.
value there for a guy who has had 2 or more catches in 8 of the last 10 games. He's also had 2 or more targets in 12 of the last 16 games. Now, he was a non-factor in the San Francisco game, but that's because Philadelphia didn't have to throw the ball in the second half of that game. They knew that San Francisco didn't have a quarterback, so they basically spent the third and fourth quarter of that game taking a knee. If that game had been competitive, I think you would have seen Watkins get a touch or two. So I know that it's the trendy thing is to bet against Quez Watkins right now, but look, all the focus is going to be on the Pro Bowlers, on Smith and on AJ Brown. That's going to leave some room open for the underneath safe throws, some screen passes, stuff like that. And I will be very surprised if he doesn't get a touch or two just so they can see what that speed can do.
Yeah, I can see that, and again, I do like the plus money that you were talking on that. My last free play for you guys is a cross one. It's a cross sport one. It has to be. That's what I'm here for, and it's for the people who are sitting there, maybe in my former neck of the woods, full time in Vegas. You know what? The Golden Knights are playing the Anaheim Ducks Sunday. The Anaheim Ducks, where me and you can probably find guys that put a skate. I've never skated in my life. That can maybe put a shot on net against the Ducks defense. Golden Knights shots on goal versus Kansas City points. I'll take the minus 11 and a half on Golden Knights on this one. Last time these two teams played, 24 shots on net, which was a low scoring game. It was 3-2. Last time the Golden Knights are finally putting some pucks in the net. I think we're going to see anywhere between 28 to 29, maybe even 30 shots on goal of the Ducks. I'm gonna lay the heavy chalk, and then I'm showing my card on that one on who I think is going to win the Super Bowl on this one, but I am going with the Vegas and the Golden Knights minus 11 and a half shots on goal versus Kansas City points.
All right, everyone. He's Raphael Esparza. I am Robert Ferringo. We are Doc Sports Services. Be sure to go to docsports.com, and we got you all set for all of your Super Bowl needs and any other sport that you need. I know there's going to be some NBA Game of the Years this weekend. We'll have another full Saturday of college basketball action to get your bankroll boosted for Super Sunday. In the meantime, carpe diem and good luck.